Hello there, friends. My name is Robert Mitchell, and I'm 70 years old. I've lived through 7 decades of joy, heartbreak, triumph, and betrayal. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I'm about to tell you today. Before I begin, I need you to promise me something. Please listen to my story until the very end, because what happened to me could happen to anyone, and I pray to God it never happens to you or someone you love. What I'm about to share with you is the most painful yet empowering experience of my life. It's about how my own son tried to steal my life savings of $2.3 million, and how my 8-year-old granddaughter became the unlikely hero who saved everything I had worked for. So please, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let me tell you this story that will change how you see family, trust, and the power of standing up for what's right. It was a crisp Saturday evening in October, and the autumn leaves were painting my backyard in shades of gold and crimson. My late wife Margaret would have loved this time of year. She always said October was when nature showed off its most beautiful dress before winter's sleep. But Margaret had been gone for 3 years now, and these beautiful moments felt hollow without her laughter filling the house. That evening was supposed to be special. It was my granddaughter Emma's 8th birthday party, and I had been looking forward to it for weeks. Emma was the light of my life, the only thing that brought genuine joy to my days since Margaret passed. Her infectious giggle, her curious questions about everything from why birds fly to why Grandpa's hair turned white, her tiny hand slipping into mine during our walks in the park. These moments were my treasure. I had spared no expense for Emma's party. The backyard was decorated with pink and purple balloons, her favorite colors. There's a bouncy castle, a face painting station, and enough pizza and cake to feed a small army. I watched through my kitchen window as children ran around laughing, their parents chatting in small groups, everyone seemingly having a wonderful time. But something felt off, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. My son Harry, now 35 years old, and his wife Linda had been acting strangely for the past few months. They would exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Whisper conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered a room. And Linda had started being unusually sweet to me, which was completely out of character. Linda had never particularly liked me, and the feeling, if I'm being honest, was mutual. She was cold, calculating, and I had always felt she married Harry for financial security rather than love. As the party wound down and the last guest said their goodbyes, I was in the kitchen cleaning up when Emma came running in, her face flushed with excitement and chocolate cake smeared on her chin. She looked around nervously, then tugged on my sleeve. "Grandpa," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "can I tell you a secret?" I knelt down to her level, my old knees creaking in protest. "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" Emma glanced toward the patio door where her parents were, still talking to the last few guests, then leaned close to my ear. What she said next made my blood run cold. "Grandpa, tonight Mommy and Daddy are going to take away your fortune. I heard them talking last night when they thought I was sleeping. Daddy said they were going to get your money tonight, and Mommy said you wouldn't be able to stop them because you're old and confused. But you're not confused, are you, Grandpa? You're the smartest person I know." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. My own son and daughter-in-law were planning to steal from me. The very people I had supported for years, the ones I had helped buy their house, their cars, paid for Emma's private school tuition. I tried to keep my expression neutral, not wanting to alarm Emma, but inside I was reeling. "Thank you for telling me, sweetheart," I managed to say, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. "But let's keep this our little secret for now, okay? And Emma, no matter what happens, remember that Grandpa loves you more than all the stars in the sky." She nodded solemnly, gave me a tight hug, and ran back outside to play with the last few children at the party. I stood there in my kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of what should have been a joyful celebration, trying to process what I had just learned. Let me give you some background so you understand the full scope of this betrayal. After Margaret died, I had become increasingly involved in Harry and Linda's lives, both emotionally and financially. They were struggling with their mortgage, and I didn't want Emma to suffer, so I had been helping them with their monthly payments. For the past 2 years, in total, I had given them over $70,000. I paid off Linda's car loan when she complained about the high interest rates. I covered Emma's private school tuition because I wanted my granddaughter to have the best education possible. I helped them renovate their kitchen, bought them a new refrigerator when theirs broke down, and even paid for their family vacation to Disney World last summer because Emma had been begging to go. Never asked for anything in return except to be treated with respect and to spend time with Emma. I thought I was being a good father and grandfather, helping my family during difficult times. I had worked my entire life building a successful construction business, saved diligently, invested wisely, and accumulated a net worth of $2.3 million. I lived modestly, spending little on myself, but I was generous with my family because I believed blood was thicker than water. How wrong I was. As the evening progressed and the last guests left, Harry and Linda lingered longer than usual. They helped clean up, which was unusual for Linda, and Harry kept bringing up random topics about my health, my memory, whether I had been taking my medications properly. The conversation felt forced, like they were following a script. "Dad, you seem a little forgetful lately," Harry said as we folded up the tables. "Last week you couldn't remember where you put your car keys, and yesterday you called me asking about an appointment you had already attended." I had done no such thing, but I played along. "Oh, did I? I suppose I have been a bit scattered lately. Getting old isn't for the weak, son." Linda chimed in with fake concern. "Robert, maybe we should talk about getting you some help around the house. Someone to make sure you're taking care of yourself properly." The way she said it sent chills down my spine. I could see now that this whole conversation was leading somewhere, and based on Emma's warning, I had a pretty good idea where. "We actually wanted to talk to you about something important," Harry continued. "Linda and I have been researching some options for elderly care, and we think it might be time to consider having someone help you manage your daily affairs." There it was, the setup. They were going to try to have me declared mentally incompetent so they could gain control of my finances. I had heard about this happening to other seniors, but I never imagined my own family would attempt such a thing. I decided to test my theory. "You know what? You might be right. Sometimes I do feel confused about things. Just yesterday I couldn't remember how to use the coffee maker, and I've been using the same one for 5 years." The look that passed between Harry and Linda confirmed my suspicions. They thought they had me right where they wanted me. "Don't worry, Dad," Harry said, putting his hand on my shoulder in what he probably thought was a comforting gesture. "We're going to take care of everything. Linda has been researching legal options, and we think we found a solution that will help everyone." "Legal options?" I asked, playing the confused elderly man they apparently thought I was. "Well," Linda said carefully, "there are legal documents that can help family members assist elderly relatives who might be having trouble managing their affairs. It's really for your own protection, Robert." I wanted to grab them both by the shoulders and demand they explain themselves, but I knew I needed to be smart about this. If they were really planning to have me declared incompetent, I needed to gather evidence and prepare a defense. "That sounds complicated," I said, shuffling my feet and looking confused. "Maybe we should talk about it another time when my head is clearer." "Actually, Dad," Harry said quickly, "we were hoping to get this sorted out soon. Tomorrow, actually. Linda has already arranged for someone to come to the house to help us with the paperwork. Tomorrow." They were moving fast. Too fast for someone who was genuinely concerned about my welfare and had my best interests at heart. This was a calculated attack, and they had clearly been planning it for some time. Tomorrow is Sunday, I said weakly. Do people work on Sundays? This lady does, Linda said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She specializes in helping families like ours. She'll come here, explain everything in simple terms, and help us get the documents signed. It'll all be very easy and stress-free. For you. After they left that night, I sat in my living room staring at the framed photos on my mantelpiece. There was Margaret on our wedding day, radiant in her white dress. Harry as a chubby-cheeked toddler taking his first steps. Emma blowing out candles on her last birthday cake. How had I gotten to this point where my own son was plotting against me? I didn't sleep a wink that night. Instead, I spent the dark hours formulating a plan. If Harry and Linda wanted to play games with my mental capacity, I would give them exactly what they expected to see. But I would be recording everything and gathering witnesses who could testify to my actual mental state. The next morning, I called my attorney, James Patterson, who had been handling my legal affairs for over 20 years. I explained the situation and asked him to come to my house Monday morning with a colleague as a witness. I also called my doctor, Dr. Sarah Williams, and asked her to stop by Monday morning as well to assess my mental state. Finally, I called my accountant, Michael Rodriguez, and asked him to bring my financial records. I wanted a house full of professional witnesses who could testify that I was completely lucid and capable of managing my own affairs. If Harry and Linda were going to try to rob me using the legal system, I was going to make sure their plan backfired spectacularly. Sunday dragged on like the longest day of my life. I spent the time practicing my confused old man act while actually putting together a comprehensive plan to protect myself and Emma. I also spent time thinking about Margaret and what she would have said about this situation. She always told me that people show their true colors when money is involved, and that I was sometimes too trusting for my own good. As usual, my late wife had been absolutely right. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. At exactly 9 o'clock, there was a knock at my door. Harry and Linda stood on my porch with a woman I didn't recognize, a middle-aged blonde in a business suit carrying a briefcase. "Good morning, Dad," Harry said with false cheer. "This is Miss Jennifer Walsh. She's the specialist I told you about." Ms. Walsh stepped forward with a practiced smile. "Mr. Mitchell, it's so nice to meet you. I understand your family is concerned about helping you with some legal matters." I shuffled to the door, playing up my frailty. "Oh yes, come in, come in. I'm afraid I'm not quite myself these days. My son says you're here to help me with some papers." As they settled in my living room, Ms. Walsh opened her briefcase and pulled out several official-looking documents. "Mr. Mitchell, these are power of attorney documents that will allow your son Harry to help you manage your financial affairs. It's really very simple. You just need to sign here and here, and Harry will be able to take care of all the complicated money matters for you. What exactly does that mean?" I asked, blinking confused like an owl. Linda jumped in. "It just means Harry can help pay your bills and manage your investments, Robert. You won't have to worry about all those confusing financial decisions anymore." What they weren't telling me, of course, was that a power of attorney would give Harry complete control over my bank accounts, investments, and property. He could empty every account, sell my house, and leave me with nothing, all while claiming he was acting in my best interests. "I don't know," I said hesitantly. "This seems like a big decision. Maybe I should think about it for a few days." The three of them exchanged glances, and I could see their frustration mounting. "Dad," Harry said with strained patience, "we discussed this yesterday. You agreed this was a good idea, remember? Ms. Walsh has taken time out of her weekend to help us, and these documents need to be notarized today." "Oh, right," I said, nodding slowly. "I did say that, didn't I? My memory isn't what it used to be." Ms. Walsh pulled out her notary stamp. "If you could just sign here, Mr. Mitchell, we can get this all taken care of." "Well," I said, reaching for the pen with a shaky hand. If Harry thinks it's best. Just as I was about to sign, there was another knock at the door. Perfect timing. Oh, who could that be? I said, looking confused. I wasn't expecting anyone. I shuffled to the door and opened it to reveal my attorney James Patterson, along with his colleague Rebecca Thompson, my doctor Dr. Williams, and my accountant Michael Rodriguez. Robert, James said loudly enough for everyone in the living room to hear. I hope we're not too early for our appointment. You called and asked us to come review your financial documents this morning, remember? The look of panic that flashed across Harry's face was worth $1 million. Linda had gone pale, and Ms. Walsh was frantically trying to gather up her papers. Oh yes, I said, suddenly standing straighter and speaking more clearly. Please come in. I have some other visitors right now, but this shouldn't take long. As my professional team entered the living room, I could see Harry and Linda realizing that their plan was falling apart. The presence of my attorney, doctor, and accountant made it impossible for them to continue with their charade. James, I said, my voice now strong and clear, I'd like you to meet my son Harry, his wife Linda, and Ms. Jennifer Walsh, who is apparently a notary. They just presented me with power of attorney documents and were pressuring me to sign them immediately. James Patterson had been practicing law for 30 years, and he could spot a financial scam from a mile away. Is that so, Mr. Mitchell? Did you request these documents or ask for power of attorney arrangements to be made? I most certainly did not, I replied, enjoying the shocked expressions on Harry and Linda's faces. In fact, I had no idea such documents were being prepared until they showed up at my door this morning, with them already completed. Dr. Williams stepped forward. Robert, you called me yesterday expressing concerns about family members questioning your mental capacity. Would you like me to conduct a brief cognitive assessment right now, in front of everyone? That would be excellent, Sarah. Thank you. Dr. Williams proceeded to conduct a thorough mental status examination, asking me questions about the date, current events, mathematical calculations, and memory tests. I answered every question correctly and demonstrated clear, logical thinking throughout the assessment. Mr. Mitchell, Dr. Williams announced to the room, you are showing absolutely no signs of cognitive impairment or mental incompetence. Your memory is excellent, your reasoning is sound, and you are clearly capable of managing your own affairs. The silence in the room was deafening. Ms. Walsh was quietly packing up her papers, clearly realizing she had been brought into a situation. That was not what it appeared to be. Mr. Rodriguez, I said, turning to my accountant, would you please explain to everyone here the current status of my financial affairs and my mental capacity to manage them? Michael pulled out a thick folder. Mr. Mitchell has been managing his own investments and financial affairs competently for decades. Just last month, he made several sophisticated investment decisions that demonstrated excellent financial acumen. His accounts are all in perfect order, and there is no indication whatsoever that he needs assistance managing his money. Now it was time for the confrontation I had been dreading but knew was necessary. Harry, I said, my voice calm but firm, would you care to explain why you brought a notary to my house on a Sunday morning with pre-prepared power of attorney documents, attempting to convince me to sign them by claiming I was mentally incompetent? Harry's face went through several shades of red. Dad, we were just trying to help. We thought ... You thought what? I interrupted. That I was stupid? That I wouldn't figure out your plan? Did you really think you could steal $2.3 million from your own father and get away with it? Linda finally found her voice. Robert, you're being dramatic. We were just trying to help you manage ... Help me manage what, exactly? I demanded. My money that you've been spending for the past 2 years? The $70,000 I've given you for mortgages and car payments and school tuition and vacations? Was that not enough? You needed to take everything? The truth was coming out now, and there was no stopping it. I know you've been researching. Legal procedures to have me declared mentally incompetent, I continued. I know you've been planning this for months. And I know that your 8-year-old daughter overheard your conversations and warned me what you were planning. The shock on their faces when I mentioned Emma was absolute. They had never imagined their own daughter would be the one to expose their scheme. Emma heard you talking about taking Grandpa's money, I said, my voice breaking slightly as I thought about my innocent granddaughter being exposed to her parents' greed. She was so worried about me that she felt compelled to warn me at her own birthday party. Do you have any idea what you've done to that child? Do you understand how your greed has affected your own daughter? Harry slumped into a chair, finally, understanding that their plan had completely backfired. Dad, I can explain ... Explain what? Explain how you decided to repay my generosity by attempting to rob me. Explain how you were willing to have your own father declared mentally incompetent for money. Explain how you involved your 8-year-old daughter in your criminal conspiracy. Ms. Walsh stood up abruptly. I'm sorry, but I need to leave. I was told this was a straightforward power of attorney signing for an elderly man who requested assistance. I was not informed that this was a contested situation or that the principal was unwilling. I cannot and will not notarize these documents. She gathered her things and headed for the door, leaving Harry and Linda to face the consequences of their actions alone. James Patterson opened his briefcase and pulled out a legal pad. Robert, based on what I've witnessed here today, I believe we have grounds for several legal actions: attempted financial elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and possibly even attempted theft. Would you like me to contact the authorities? I looked at my son and daughter-in-law, seeing them clearly for the first time. Harry looked defeated and ashamed, while Linda appeared angry that their plan had been discovered rather than remorseful for attempting it. I want to give you one chance, I said finally. One chance to prove that you can change, that you can put Emma's welfare ahead of your own greed, and that you can earn back even a fraction of the trust you've destroyed today. Linda started to protest, but I held up my hand. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. First, I am immediately stopping all financial support. No more mortgage payments, no more car payments, no more private school tuition. You're going to learn to live within your means like adults. But Emma's school. Harry started. Emma is my granddaughter, and I will make sure she gets a good education, I said firmly. But it will be on my terms, not yours. I'm setting up an educational trust fund for Emma that you cannot touch. The money will go directly to whatever school she attends, and any unused funds will be saved for her college education. Dr. Williams, James, and Michael were taking notes, documenting everything for legal purposes. Second, I continued, I am changing my will. You are no longer my primary beneficiary. Emma will inherit the majority of my estate through a trust that you cannot access until she turns 25. You'll get a small inheritance if you can prove over the next year that you've changed your ways and are putting Emma's needs first. Linda's face was now bright red with anger. You can't do this. We have rights. Actually, James interjected, Mr. Mitchell has every right to distribute his assets as he sees fit. And given what we've witnessed today, I think these arrangements are quite reasonable. Third, I said, you have exactly 1 year to prove to me that you can be decent parents and human beings. If you can show me that you're working honestly to support your family, treating Emma with the love and respect she deserves, and demonstrating that you understand the magnitude of what you attempted to do to me today, I will consider restoring some level of financial support. And if we don't meet your standards, Harry asked quietly, then you get nothing. Emma will be provided for through her trust fund, but you will inherit exactly what you deserve, nothing. The room fell silent as the weight of the consequences settled over them. Harry and Linda had come to my house planning to steal millions of dollars, and instead they had lost everything they thought they were entitled to. Dr. Williams packed up her things. Robert, I'll prepare a formal report documenting your mental competency for your attorney. You're sharper than people half. Your age. Michael Rodriguez handed me a folder. I'll get started on the trust fund paperwork for Emma immediately. We can have everything legally protected within a week. James Patterson stood up and shook my hand. Robert, you handled this perfectly. You gathered evidence, documented everything, and protected yourself legally. Many seniors in similar situations aren't as fortunate. After my professional team left, I was alone with Harry and Linda in my living room. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the ticking of the grandfather clock Margaret had bought me for our anniversary. I need you both to understand something, I said finally. This isn't about the money. I would have gladly given you everything I had if you had just been honest with me. But you chose to lie, manipulate, and attempt to steal from me. Worse, you were willing to have me declared mentally incompetent, which would have stripped away my dignity and autonomy in my final years. Harry finally looked up at me, and I could see tears in his eyes. Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't know what we were thinking. The financial pressure just got so overwhelming, and Linda said this was the only way. Don't blame Linda for your decisions, Harry, I said sternly. You're a grown man, and you chose to participate in this scheme. You both did. Linda stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're being completely unreasonable. We were trying to help you, and you're treating us like criminals. You were acting like criminals, I replied calmly. And if I hadn't discovered your plan and gathered witnesses, you would have successfully stolen everything I worked my entire life to build. Fine, Linda said angrily. We don't need your money anyway. Come on, Harry, let's go. But Harry didn't move. He sat there staring at his hands, finally beginning to understand the magnitude of what they had attempted. Linda, he said quietly, we need to take Emma and go home. We need to figure out how we're going to explain this to her. Explain what? Linda demanded. That Grandpa is being mean and unreasonable? No, Harry said firmly, showing the first sign of backbone I had seen from him in years. We need to explain why we were wrong, why we can't accept Grandpa's help anymore, and how we're going to make things right. For the next few months, I watched from a distance as Harry and Linda struggled to adjust to life without my financial support. Harry picked up extra shifts at his job, and Linda finally got a part-time position after years of staying home. They had to sell Linda's expensive car and buy a used one. They moved Emma to public school, which was actually excellent in their district. Most importantly, they had to learn to budget, save, and live within their means like responsible adults. Emma came to visit me every weekend, and I could see the positive changes in her as well. Without the financial stress and scheming that had been consuming her parents' attention, they were finally focusing on being better parents. Emma seemed happier, more relaxed, and no longer carried the burden of adult secrets she shouldn't have known about. 6 months after the confrontation, Harry came to my house alone. He looked different, thinner, more tired, but somehow more solid and confident than he had in years. Dad, he said, I came to apologize. Not because I want you to change your mind about the money, but because you deserve to hear it. What Linda and I did was wrong. It was criminal, and it was inexcusable. We violated your trust, we put our own greed ahead of your welfare, and we exposed Emma to adult problems she should never have been involved in. I listened carefully, trying to gauge whether this was genuine remorse or another manipulation. I've been going to counseling, Harry continued. Both individual therapy and marriage counseling with Linda. We're learning to communicate better, to handle financial stress without making horrible decisions, and to put Emma's needs first. I'm not asking for forgiveness, and I'm not asking for money. I just wanted you to know that we're trying to become the people we should have been all along. How is Emma? I asked. She's doing great, Harry said with the first genuine smile I had seen from him in years. She loves her new school, She's made lots of friends, and she's not worried about adult problems anymore. She asks about you constantly and keeps asking when she can spend the night here again. She can spend the night whenever she wants. I sighed. That was never in question. Emma is not being punished for your mistakes. I know, Harry said. And I appreciate that more than you know. Dad, I want you to know that even if you never help us financially again, and even if we never inherit anything from you, I understand why you made those decisions. We earned those consequences, and we're learning to live with them. Over the next few months, I continued to observe Harry and Linda's progress. Linda seemed to be having a harder time adjusting to their new reality, but even she was making an effort to be a better mother and wife. They were both working hard, living frugally, and prioritizing Emma's happiness over material possessions. 9 months after the confrontation, something remarkable happened. Harry called me on a Tuesday evening, his voice excited. Dad, I got a promotion at work. It comes with a substantial raise, enough that we'll be able to save money for the first time in years. Linda wants to use the extra money to take Emma on a camping trip instead of an expensive vacation. We're learning that time together is more valuable than fancy things. I felt a warmth in my chest that I hadn't experienced since Margaret was alive. My son was finally becoming the man I had always hoped he would be. That's wonderful, Harry, I said. I'm proud of you. Dad, Harry said quietly, I know I don't deserve it, but would you consider joining us for Emma's 9th birthday party next month? I promise there won't be any drama, no discussions about money or inheritances, just family celebrating together. I thought about it for a moment. A year ago, I would have said yes immediately, trusting blindly in family loyalty. Now I was more cautious, but I could see genuine change in Harry and his family. I'd like that, I said. But I have one condition. Anything, Harry said quickly. I want to bring James Patterson with me as my guest. Not for legal reasons, but because he's become a good friend, and I want Emma to meet him. Harry laughed, and it was the first time I had heard genuine laughter from him in years. Dad, you want to bring your lawyer to a 9-year-old's birthday party? He makes excellent conversation, and Emma loves meeting new people, I said with a chuckle. Of course, Harry said. Bring whoever you want. We just want you there. Emma's 9th birthday party was a revelation. Gone were the expensive decorations and elaborate entertainment. Instead, Harry and Linda had organized simple games in their backyard, made a homemade cake, and invited Emma's school friends and their families. The atmosphere was relaxed, genuine, and filled with actual joy rather than the forced celebration of the previous year. Watched as Harry helped children with crafts while Linda organized games. They were present, engaged, and clearly enjoying themselves rather than just going through the motions. Most importantly, Emma was radiant with happiness, surrounded by friends and family who were focused entirely on celebrating her. James Patterson turned out to be a hit with the kids, teaching them magic tricks and telling stories about his adventures. As a lawyer, Emma was fascinated by him and peppered him with questions about his job. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Emma ran up to me with chocolate cake smeared on her face, just like the previous year. But this time, when she whispered in my ear, her message was completely different. Grandpa, she said softly, Mommy and Daddy are so much happier now. They laugh together, they play games with me, and they don't whisper about scary things anymore. Thank you for helping them learn to be better. I felt tears spring to my eyes. This wise little girl understood more than many adults about the power of consequences and redemption. Later that evening, after all the guests had gone home, Harry, Linda, Emma, and I sat on their back porch watching the sunset. Emma was curled up in my lap, tired from her exciting day, while Harry and Linda sat close together on their porch swing. Dad, Harry said quietly, I want you to know that even if you never change your will, Even if Linda and I never inherit anything from you, this year has been the best year of our marriage and our lives as parents. Learning to support ourselves, to live within our means, and to focus on what really matters has made us better people and a stronger family." Linda nodded in agreement. "Robert, I owe you an apology that's long overdue. What we tried to do to you was horrible, and I'm ashamed that I was the one who suggested it. I was so focused on money and material things that I forgot what was truly important. I'm grateful that you stopped us before we destroyed our family completely." As I sat there holding my granddaughter while she dozed in my arms, listening to my son and daughter-in-law acknowledge their growth and express genuine remorse, I realized that the confrontation from a year ago had been the best thing that could have happened to all of us. "Harry," I said finally, "you and Linda have exceeded my expectations this year. You've shown me that you can put Emma first, that you can work hard and live honestly, and that you can learn from your mistakes. I'm proud of the parents you've become." "Does this mean ... double quotes Harry started, but I held up my hand. "It means that I'm going to modify my will," I said. "Not to the original terms, but to something that reflects the growth I've seen in both of you. Emma will still receive the majority of my estate through her trust fund, but you and Linda will receive a substantial inheritance as well, enough to help secure your family's future without making you dependent on it." The relief and gratitude on their faces was genuine and heartfelt. "But," I continued sternly, "this gift comes with conditions. The money will be held in a trust that requires you to maintain steady employment, continue living within your means, and prioritize Emma's welfare. If you ever attempt anything like what you tried a year ago, you'll lose everything permanently." "We understand," Linda said quietly, "and we won't let you down again." "I know you won't," I said, looking down at Emma's peaceful face. "Because you've learned that the most valuable thing a family can have isn't money, it's trust, respect, and love for each other." As the months passed, Harry and Linda continued to thrive in their new life of honest work and responsible living. Emma flourished in her public school, made lasting friendships, and developed a deep appreciation for the simple pleasures in life. Most importantly, she grew up in a home where her parents focused on her happiness and security, rather than financial schemes and adult worries. 2 years after the confrontation, I made the final changes to my will, establishing inheritance structures that would provide security for my family while encouraging continued growth and responsibility. Emma's trust fund would ensure she could pursue any educational or career path she chose, while Harry and Linda's inheritance would give them a foundation to build upon rather than a fortune to depend upon. I also established a scholarship fund at Emma's school, ensuring that other children would have access to quality education regardless of their family's financial situation. Margaret would have loved that touch. She always believed in giving back to the community. Looking back on this experience, I realized that Emma's whispered warning at her 8th birthday party was more than just a heads-up about her parents' scheme. It was the catalyst for a transformation that saved our entire family from a path that would have destroyed us all. If Harry and Linda had succeeded in their plan, they would have gained temporary financial relief but lost their integrity, their relationship with me, and ultimately their own self-respect. Emma would have grown up knowing that her parents were thieves who stole from their own family. The damage would have been irreparable. Instead, by exposing their plan and forcing them to face the consequences of their actions, I gave them the opportunity to become better people. It wasn't easy for any of us, but it was necessary. Today, 3 years later, I can honestly say that my relationship with Harry, Linda, and Emma is stronger than it has ever been. It's built on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine affection rather than financial dependence and hidden resentments. Emma is thriving as a confident, intelligent 11-year-old who knows she is loved unconditionally by her family. Harry has been promoted twice at his job and is considering starting his own business. Linda has gone back to school and is working toward a degree in early childhood education. Most importantly, they've learned that true security doesn't come from schemes, shortcuts, or someone else's money. It comes from hard work, honest living, and the strength of family bonds built on trust and love. The $2.3 million is still mine to manage and distribute as I see fit, but it's no longer a source of tension or temptation for my family. They know they will be provided for according to my plans, but they also know they must continue to earn that provision through their own actions and choices. As I finish telling you this story, I want you to remember Emma's courage in warning me about her parents' plan. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages, and sometimes the people we least expect turn out to be our greatest protectors. If you're facing similar challenges with family members who seem more interested in your money than your well-being, please know that you're not alone. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself legally, but also remember that people can change if they're given the right incentives and consequences. Most importantly, don't let anyone make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or protecting yourself from financial abuse, even if those people are family members. Blood may be thicker than water, but respect and integrity are thicker than blood. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it serves as both a warning and an inspiration. A warning about the importance of protecting yourself from those who would take advantage of your generosity, and an inspiration about the power of redemption and the possibility of rebuilding broken trust through honest effort and genuine change. If this story has moved you or taught you something valuable, please share it with others who might benefit from hearing it. Sometimes the experiences of one person can help protect and guide many others facing similar challenges. Remember, you are never too old to stand up for yourself, never too trusting to learn caution, and never too hurt to offer forgiveness to those who genuinely earn it. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your loved ones.